Casinos in Las Vegas and other cities in Nevada reopened earlier this month, allowing the gaming industry to bring some of their employees back to work. CBS News reports the state posted the worst unemployment rate in the country and the nation's largest surge in unemployment in April. But the state's unemployment numbers leave out undocumented workers who make a significant portion of Nevada's workforce. In Michigan, where more businesses are beginning to open as the state relaxes some of its coronavirus-related restrictions, the state's major casino industry remains closed. Detroit's 3 casinos collectively employ thousands of workers and provide hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue to Michigan and Detroit. CBS News campaign reporters Alex Tin and Adam Brewster join me now. Alex, let's go ahead and start with you. How badly have unauthorized immigrants living in Nevada been impacted by the pandemic?
Well, it's important to understand, like you said, that the unemployment crisis in Nevada is so bad. It is astronomically bad, even from the official figures we have, which is roughly 1 in 3 Nevada workers are unemployed. That was according to both April and May. Now, not included in that figure are all of the undocumented workers who live in Nevada, which is estimated as of 2016 in a Pew Research study to be around 1 in 10 of the workers inside of Nevada. None of those can collect unemployment benefits. None of them got stimulus checks from the so-called coronavirus relief fund. And none of them are able to receive many of the other benefits that typically have buoyed families through this crisis all across the country. And so when you're thinking about how badly the unemployment crisis has hit Nevada, already on paper, it is astronomical, not even including the significant share of the workforce that isn't included in those official figures.
All right, Adam, let's talk about over there in Michigan. A fraud investigation has frozen the unemployment benefits for hundreds of thousands of casino workers. What is this investigation about, and how long could it be before these workers start getting benefits?
Right. So this was an investigation of people fraudulently filing claims. The U.S. Secret Service had warned about that in certain states. And it was hundreds of thousands of workers across the state of Michigan who had been kind of swept up in this, many of whom, or people who were filing their claims legitimately, had their benefits frozen for a while as the state looked into this, asked people to provide more information to say who they were, and they've been working through this. Like Nevada, Michigan's economy has been hit incredibly hard by the coronavirus pandemic. More than 2.2 million Michiganders have filed claims, so it is taking the state a while to get through these. Now, the hundreds of thousands of claims that have been, swept up through this, many have been resolved. In fact, a couple of the people who I spoke to for this article, when I interviewed them, at first, they hadn't received benefits in several weeks, and then before the article published, kind of received the first set of benefits that they owed. Now, the state says that they are working through these, and everyone who has legitimately filed a claim will get the money that they are owed. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer last week said, "We know we have to do better. We are working through them as fast as we can." The state has added hundreds of people to go through that, but some of the workers I spoke to who have been out of work since the middle of March, and then went through this period where they didn't receive any money from the state, basically talked about the hardships they had to go through, decisions that they had to make financially. One woman, said she had to cut back on food, from her pets, and has now received a bit of a relief. And she said it was just wonderful news hearing that, but she is, worried about going forward and getting all of the money that she is owed, as casino workers in Michigan hope to get back to work in the near future.
Alex, back over to you. Obviously, the gambling industry and all the related industries support much of Nevada's economy. I'm wondering how much COVID-19 is contributing to a shortfall there and how they intend to deal with the lack of resources.
Well, as you can imagine, that is a huge topic of debate right now, as you have a number of state agencies as well as local agencies trying to figure out how they're going to make up that shortfall in funding as they go into the next year. Now, Nevada, like a lot of states across the country, had been doing pretty well up until this point. They have rainy day funds, they have backup funds, they have places that they can trim to try to minimize the amount of layoffs that are going to occur in a lot of these state services. But it's undeniable that especially in Las Vegas itself, as well as the surrounding communities that really power the heart of Nevada's economy, none of that revenue is planning on being restored anytime soon. So we're talking not just about the months of revenue that have been lost, as the state begins to reopen. But even as the state begins to reopen, trying to incentivize tourists to come back, spend their money, especially when the state government, for coronavirus reasons, for social health distancing guidelines, has to physically limit the number of people who can even patronize any of these casinos, any of these resorts, any of these restaurants, means that they're even at operating at 100% of the capacity that they are allowed to under state law. They are still well below anything close to what they would have been making during the summer at a peak tourism season for any destination, let alone Las Vegas.
And Adam, I know that the city of Detroit has projected a nearly $350 million revenue shortfall. Detroit already suffering, and Michigan, many of the cities within Michigan also suffering. That's also a state that could be in play for the November election. Any sense of how all of that is affecting Michigan voters?
So, the budget shortfalls are going to be felt by states and cities around the country. And, the cuts that people have to make and the decisions of how much federal aid ends up going to these states and cities and counties who, have experienced shortfall will have to play out over the coming months. And there will likely be a debate, especially as the presidential campaign ramps back up, about just what the role of the federal government is in helping these states who were, hit by something that was really out of everyone's control. And, you look at Detroit specifically, you mentioned the $350 million shortfall over the next couple of years. And to get back to the casino point of this is, Nevada, and you think of Nevada and casinos, those thoughts go together. But, a lot of people don't know that the casinos in Detroit, right, those are the privately owned ones. There are tribal casinos elsewhere in Michigan which have been able to open back up. But the privately owned casinos in Detroit are the third largest source of revenue for this city. They, were expected to provide about 17% of the money in the general fund this year, and they're expecting more than $100 million shortfall just from the casinos over the next year, and that was when they were closed. Now, they'll, hoping to open back up sometime in the next few weeks, but as Alex mentioned, that'll be at a reduced capacity. And, when there are 15%, that is the number they're talking about allowing in the beginning, only 50% capacity, you can't hit the tax revenue that the casinos would normally be able to pump out when they make so much of their money on weekend nights or after sporting events, which are also canceled for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
It is the Michigan economy. It will, take a long time to recover from this. And I think that one of the debates that will be interesting to watch out is how voters feel the federal government needs to step in and help, because there have been talks about cutting budgets, and some lawmakers in Michigan have talked about slashing education budgets. It will be a huge topic of discussion of what needs to be cut, what is the role of these states in being rescued as these next couple of months play out and the total budget loss in cities, states, and counties really comes into effect.
Yeah, a lot of people suffering. Alex Tin, Adam Brewster, thank you.